Okay, so we're working on VR6 goes green, new motor, new power plant, new heart, whatever we want to call it today. Old guys over here had a little low compression on one cylinder, and it's kind of nice to have a spare, or 3. I think he's got 5, I don't know, maybe 10. But she's up on the lift, taking her apart, doing some general upgrades. So what I wanted to show you was on these guys. This is, I don't know if you should be able to see that. Nice and just clearanced a little bit. The ports are a little bit bigger, but I think they did. This is the exhaust side, and then this is the intake side. Let me see if I can spin this around. Yeah, so you can see it here. So they increased these, and what they did is they used the gasket as a template. I'm not necessarily a fan of this because I think it makes a weird bigger spot right there, unless you're able to clearance it all the way down or port it all the way down. But so you can see they just match the gasket shape. Now the problem is we're putting the intake on. This is the stock lower intake, I guess is the best way to describe it. And you can see it's got these small notches here. I think those are for the injectors clearance. And what they did was clearanced it on the motor, but they obviously didn't have the lower intake, so left with a good bit of material. You can see all those ports are a little bit smaller, especially up by the injectors. I can imagine it would help airflow around the injector to keep it air atomized as it's going. So what we're going to do is just clearance that just a little bit. We'll use the gasket as a template, use a Sharpie to line it out, and then just try and port match it. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm just going to use my fingers here. I mean, they go all the way in with ease. And then when you go on this side over here, this is the old motor. It's like, it's got another ½ inch. Did the same thing on the exhaust side, which is really cool because when you increase the exhaust flow, right, you increase your turbo. So that's in the stock ports. Mark it with my thumb. And over here on the goes in like a whole another ½ inch. So yeah, the ports are quite a bit bigger. I don't have the specs. I think he's got the specs for it. Oh, did you even get that? Yeah. I don't have the specs for it. He probably has the specs, but the motor was built by somebody and he bought it. We didn't do this one. We did take the head gasket off, check and one piston out. We checked the ring gap. We redid the head gasket. It does not have a spacer on it because this one's got a bigger bore. So this one has the head spacer on it. I don't know if you can see that little guy right there, which brings the compression down so you can add the boost, which there's the boost. He had a problem with his manifold. They don't make the manifold anymore, so some welding on that to tidy it up, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Anyway, that's what we're doing today. We're cleaning parts, painting them and putting it back on. Hopefully the new one will be setting in that same place by the end of the day, and then tomorrow we'll shove her up in there and pretend like we're not going to take it for a ride. But I think if we get it in there and all plugged in and ready to go, it's going to be hard to resist. So there you go. That's what we're doing. Here, I'm just going to try and show you. There's a machinist die that you can buy that really marks on metal really well, but I'm just using a Sharpie because I'm not a machinist, but I'm aware of it because I have friends. Anyway, so just gasket matching the ports, and to do that I'm just laying the gasket on there and Sharpieing the black, and the point is to see where the gasket is. You could leave the gasket on here, but as soon as you hit it, then you're making the hole bigger and bigger and bigger because your template gets hit. And I'm just using a sandpaper on this, sandpaper rolls, to clean this up because it's aluminum and it should be relatively quick and dirty. But anyway, once you do that, I use you notice I use the bolts. They're not screwed in, they're just set in. use the bolts to hold that guy in place so it wouldn't be moving around too much. Helped out a little bit. And get this guy out of here. And that's what we have to work with. A little bit of this. It's hard to see, but if you get it at an angle, you can see it. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that down. And there's the injector right there. So I think this just helps unshroud the injector a little bit. But like I said, you got a certain size column of air going through, and then it's going to get bigger here, and then hopefully in the head it'll stay big. But it's hard to say, you know, who knows the actual flow of this thing. I'm not a pro, but anything that helps air get in there faster. So that's the column of air needs to be moving consistently. If it expands, then the pressure drops and your atomization of your fuel changes. That's a thought process. That's not a guaranteed. Anyway, something to think about when you're doing this kind of stuff. Probably left up to the pros. I'm just barely going to touch these, so I'm not really worried about it. And it's already done on the head, so this would be a restriction, and it'd be like it'd put a little weird eddy of air in there when it hit the lip right here. So it'd come through here, and then a big hole, and so there's be a lip all the way around, and it'd cause weird turbulent stuff. So we're going to do our best, even though it would be under pressure. We're going to do our best to just port match it, bring it up to what the head is done to, and hopefully it'll flow nicely and make a little bit of difference. About an hour and a half in. Yeah, you got to take your time, but I got looks like 3 done, halfway. Let me see if I can backlight this. See if it makes a difference. No, it just helps a little bit to see, but you can see there's a little bit more. You can see the marks on there, maybe. There, better, huh? Halfway done. I'll put another hour or so in. I gotta run, do some errands, come back, let my hands rest. It's a little taxing, but port matched. I also had a little bit of extra sandpaper on one, so I just went around and hit the short side radius. Let's see if I can just right here. Just with the sandpaper. I didn't do any hogging or anything, just smoothed it. It had some casting marks, but let's see if I can show you that. Yeah, you can see it. Just a little bit of smooth. I just had a casting mark, a little lip from where it was cut, and just tried to smooth that up. Just took a second, you know, like 4 or 5 seconds on each one, just so that it would. That's the short side radius, so it's air is bending around it. Yeah, helps it flow a little bit. But, yeah, we'll keep rolling. Yeah, and you can really see now that I'm looking at it. You can really see there's a full-on machining edge right there. We're getting rid of all that, so it'll flow nicely. All right. Well, got most of it. Pretty nice. Port matched. Some of it doesn't look like it is, but it's just because the gasket's up a little bit. It's not sitting down, but this is the last one I did. Pretty thorough. Nice and smooth. Pretty consistent. Yep. Pretty happy. I also cleaned up the other edge. Second, I'll get these out. Show you that. Cleaned up these guys a little bit. Just kind of tidied them up. They were not too much. I just polished them. So ready to get cleaned up and painted. Well, I was looking at this. Look at that. We took some material off of that intake manifold, man. It is everywhere. Good bit. Anyway, cool. Well, we thought this was an engine swap for VR6 Goes Green, but it turns out it's an engine swap for VR6 Goes Crazy and cleans everything and paints it all like it's a show car or something. But anyway, it's all coming together. Little pieces and parts all bolted on. We got doing some transmission cleaning out here. Gonna do that cool silver aluminum color. I don't know if I can get a good picture of that. It's hard with this back sun. We got those parts are already painted black. This guy's gonna dry and get silver. And got all these parts over here. Oil pan's all cleaned up. Did some wraps on this. Looks really nice. Got those things all cleaned up. Everything that's taped up here is going to get painted that cool silver so it looks aluminum. And yeah, everything's ready to go back together. It's really close. We're just taking our time. We got 2 more days to finish. So might as well do cool stuff. So he's going to pull the clutch off because it looked like his rear main was leaking a little bit. There's a good bit of oil. So we'll see if the clutch needs to be replaced. Probably will, but I don't know if we'll make our timeline if that happens. Anyway, we got that. Last thing for me to clean up is this guy. And we'll get some paint on it too. The sun's getting low, but that's what it looks like when you use that silver caliper paint for faux aluminum. Clean stuff up. Kind of excited to see what that looks like. I don't know if it's going to come out, so we may have to retake this tomorrow, but we ran out of time on the transmission and we wanted to do more detail, bolts and pan and stuff, but yeah, that's where we're at. They look pretty good. VR6 Goes Green is going to be VR6 Goes to the Show. He's going to be a show boy. Well, here she is. We got to run to the hardware store and grab some pretty bolts to finish with the intake. Everything's all bolted. Everything else is all bolted on. Use some ceramic paint for the header and stuff. Had to do some patching on it. Oh, I don't know, about 3-4 years ago, and it's still holding, so we didn't mess with it. Anyway, all that's up and done, ready. Last bracket being painted there. All the rest of the parts are off of old green, so off the ground, I mean. Well, next one you might see it on the K-member and ready to go in. Alright, end of the day, Sunday, 3rd day. Looks like we got everything bolted on, ready to go in. Looking good. All the nice little piece parts. I really like it. Turned out pretty. We use the copper spray on a lot of the gaskets just to make sure they seal good. Torqued everything down well. And yeah, I think it looks pretty good. We did. I didn't show this earlier, but we power washed the whole inside here. It's clean, but it's not all the same color, but it's okay. It looks good from up above. We had to reinforce these brackets a couple years back. They cracked and broke off, so front motor, excuse me, front motor mount. Anyway, yeah, it's looking good.
If you don't mind, just text me the name and address of the shop.
Looking pretty good.
And I will.
Just putting fluids in it now. Had a little issue with one of the axles over here, so we're going to have to do some rebuild on it. Haven't quite got the front bumper cover on yet, but it's right there where it needs to be, man. We're going to start it here in a few minutes, so I'll record it.
Alright, we'll take pictures of the windows.
Yes, do.